Hey everybody, this is Scott Walters, and you are watching the Walters Wanderings Travel Podcast. This is episode number 5, so we made it to the big handful. I'll be bringing in my special guest, Keli Washburn from Vacation Express in just a moment. I wanted to let you know a couple of things that are promotional in nature before we get started. And the first thing is that Celebrity Cruises, we still have wonderful promotions with them. $100 in onboard credit from them, $100 onboard credit from me for any cruise of 7 days in 2021. If you go to the Galapagos, I will throw in $100. Celebrity won't, but I will because I'm a nice guy. So that takes care of that promotion as well. We have a special promotion for 2021 travel because 2020 was such a wonderful year. We're going to be offering $21 off each $1,000 of a land portion of a vacation in 2021. All you have to do is go ahead and book the vacation by December 31st of 2020. And for each $1,000 of land-only portion of a trip or a cruise-only portion of a trip, if it's a cruise, I will be giving you $21 off. So if your land portion is, say, $5,000 for your family vacation, you'll get $105 off that cost. So that's what's going on there. And there's one more thing I need to let you know before I bring in Keli, and that is that we have the Madeira Resort in St. Lucia. It's an adult-only, beautiful resort. They're offering buy 2 nights, get 2 nights free. So you're basically a 50% off deal. St. Lucia is a beautiful island, lots of wonderful nature. This resort is unbelievable. It's not all-inclusive, but it's really quite nice. And again, anytime you can get 2 nights free when you go for 2 nights is pretty special. So those are my promotions right now. So let me get Keli in here, and I'll introduce her, and we will be ready to rock and roll. Hey, good morning, Keli.
Good morning. How are you, Scott? Can you hear me?
Yeah, everything's great. We're all good. We're all good to go. The technology is working in our favor today.
Nice.
I was just telling them about the resort in St. Lucia where you buy 2 nights and get 2 nights free. Booking by the 24th of November for travel anytime through 2021, which is really quite nice. And there's plenty more specials that I already offered to my clients. But I wanted to bring you into the conversation because you have some great information about the world of all-inclusives and Caribbean resorts and all the things that the Vacation Express has to offer. So this is Keli Washburn. She is a business development manager for Vacation Express. Vacation Express is a company that does a lot of work in the Caribbean with all-inclusives and other resorts, and are not all-inclusive, but still quite wonderful. And we're going to get the lowdown on all of that. So, Keli, first of all, tell us about your background before you came into Vacation Express. What kind of life were you living in? What kind of travel experiences did you have?
So, Scott, I was actually a travel agent for about 10 years before joining Vacation Express as a BDM in January of this year. So lots of life experiences, fell in love with all-inclusives, probably, oh my gosh, a dozen years ago, and can't imagine selling anything but all-inclusives. And the Caribbean, Mexico, and Costa Rica are near and dear to my heart since I'm in Houston. They're just right there at my doorstep, as well with a lot of your clients. So it's a great place to be traveling now, especially since we can't go to Europe and some of the other places.
Well, that's very true. In fact, I was in Cancun in September, and I can tell you that all the protocols were met and exceeded by everywhere along the way. From the time I got into my car, the car service to take me to the airport, to the time I got back home, it was all really taken care of with unbelievable care and safety in mind. So I think anyone that is worried about all the COVID procedures, I think the biggest issue always is where you're traveling from and where you're returning to. They often have more restrictions than the places that we can actually travel at and go visit, which is the thing we just have to work out. And fortunately, I have all the tools at my disposal to help any client that needs that kind of thing. So, rest assured, it really is working out fine. A lot of people I know are traveling down to Cancun specifically. Some are traveling to the Dominican Republic because, again, the restrictions aren't so great. And I think that if we focus in on all of that, those kind of places and the value they provide, I think that's really going to be important. So let's talk about all-inclusive resorts. If I'm right, I think Club Med sort of started the whole ball rolling way back in the 70s. And then from there, many other companies have sort of climbed on board. And there's certainly a whole lot of all-inclusive options. So I think we need to break it down into three categories. The first category being family-friendly. The second being couples and single adults and groups of people that are adults only. And then the third would be group travel, because I think those are the three areas where all-inclusives really can play favorably in the whole travel experience. So let's talk about family resorts. What should we look for in a family all-inclusive resort?
So really, with a family all-inclusive resort, you're wanting to look for activities for your kids that are under the age of 12. You want to look for whether they have babysitting options for those, age 1 and under, as well as those teen clubs for our all-important teens that get often forgotten in the grand scheme of things, as well as those great nightclubs for adults and that entertainment. So you have the engagement of the entire family. One of my favorite family-friendly resorts is going to be Grand Palladium, and they have fantastic resorts throughout Mexico and the Caribbean. Another one would be Hyatt Ziva for a higher-end client, and that's both of those have great teens clubs. They have great children's clubs. For that mid-scale client, I would look at the Iberostars, because those always price well, and they are very well themed for children and teens as well, with a variety of dining options at all three of those.
Yeah, I stayed when I went down in September. I stayed at Iberostar Resorts, so I can vouch for the fact that the thing about the Iberostar, which I thought was interesting, was basically it was a cluster of different level resorts in one location, which is actually can play very well for people. So basically, people can on their budget, they can find what's going to slot in for them, and they still get the ability to basically see and deal with most of the resort. Obviously, if you pump up a little higher in price, you'll get more perks and amenities. But let's just say that there are some people that don't mind staying at the lower budget parts of the resort, because they're still just as nice, and the people, the workers, the employees are still doing their best to make it a great experience for everyone. And a lot of the amenities are basically shared by all. Just sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for, say, a dining reservation if you're not at the higher end of the cluster. And otherwise, and if you stay in like the Iberostar I stayed at, which is the Riviera Maya, if you were at the high end adults only one, you could get extra perks and amenities like spa treatments and golf and stuff like that. So there's lots of different nooks and crannies and all of that. Now, family resorts are one thing, and then it's certainly one of the main thrusts of my business. But couples and adult only resorts are also an important part of the whole all-inclusive experience. And so what should you look for when you're dealing with that kind of market?
So for an adults only, you want to look at, if your adult wants those wellness activities, you want to look at whether it's a wellness resort. A great example of that would be Ladera in St. Lucia, except that it's European plan, which means that breakfast is included, but all your drinks and other food is not included. So with most all-inclusives, let me rephrase that, all your meals are included, your snacks, your drinks. So for an adult, I'm looking for those premium alcohol. I'm looking for those great spa treatments. I'm looking for location. And TRS, which is the adult side of Grand Palladium, as well as the Iberostar Grand and the Hyatt Zilara, always are my go-tos for adults only when I want a big brand. Now, if we're traveling somewhere like Antigua, there's a lot of great adult onlys that are boutique. That means that they have, 100 rooms or less. Most of the time, they're around that 30 to 50 room hotel. So really, looking at whether you want that romantic atmosphere, whether you want that, exclusive villa, or if you want to be in a hotel building. So it just depends on what you're looking for in that adults only trip.
No, those are good points, and like I say, certainly the boutique places that are smaller are certainly probably going to be more for the honeymooners or the big anniversary people or and things like that. Now groups, I know that with Vacation Express, if I'm correct, 5 rooms make a group, and that's really important because there are all kinds of group amenities you can have with 5 rooms or more. So I think, and I know that the resorts obviously love groups. They're not going to, they'll take money from anybody, of course, but they definitely will love a group to come down. And so, what if you're part of a group? What are we looking for? And what kind of resorts would you focus in on?
For my groups, I really like resorts that have several properties right there. So we have that different price points. So Scott, for example, you were at Iberostar Paraiso. I believe you stayed at Maya. On that property, there are actually 5 resorts. So 5 resorts, all of those would be included in that group or could be included in that group since they're on one property. So you have your adults only that could stay at Iberostar Grand. You have your family that might want to stay at Iberostar Maya, but the grand adults can come down and see the children and their nieces, nephews, grandkids at the Maya or any of the other Iberostar Paraisos that they're staying at. And the same thing would follow with the Grand Palladium brand as well as the Hyatt brands. So that's what I look for, is both options for adults only as well as for families that are traveling with that group. And I always encourage anybody that has at least 2 rooms, go ahead and tell your travel agent that you want to go ahead and look at an express group, because it's really easy to get 5 couples that want to go or 5 families. I know when I post, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I want to go. That looks like an amazing resort. And pretty soon you're at that 5 rooms.
That's true, and I think it's important also for what we will call the Pied Piper, for lack of a better term. They can go out and they can find other friends and like-minded people to do that, and then help make to 5 rooms. And again, it's less than a cruise. A cruise, you need 8 rooms to make a group for most cruise lines. So, five rooms is not too many, and it's very easily attained. So now, I guess the next thing I want to talk about is like some of the different room categories. When I try to explain to clients, sometimes it gets muddy, and things like garden view versus ocean front. There are lots of these different subcategories that are involved, and I know the resorts do that to for their own accounting purposes. I think they just want to. They have to keep people busy, perhaps, I suppose, by coming up with all these different categories. But explain some of the differences between some of these different categories that people may run into when they're looking at resorts, during the research part of the process.
Absolutely. So a garden view would simply mean that you're looking at something other than the ocean or the pool. It could be called a tropical view. Your view may actually be of a cow in a pasture next door, with land that hasn't been developed. Or it could be these beautiful landscaped gardens. So it is going to be their lead-in category. When you look at one that has a pool view, you're truly looking at a pool on the resort. It may be far away from the ocean, or it may be closer to the ocean, but it's going to face out to that pool. So for example, if we're thinking about like the Hilton Playa del Carmen, we've got some rooms that are closer to the street, and those rooms truly look out at the pool. You would have to really stretch out over your balcony to be able to see the ocean in the far distance. So that leads me into an ocean view room. That simply for marketing means that when you are on your balcony, you can see the ocean. Now you may have to stretch out and see the ocean, but at some point within that room, without having to step out of your balcony, you can see the ocean. Your ocean front truly means your room faces the ocean. It's a 180 degree view of the ocean, 90, whatever. It's a horizontal view of the ocean. And that's what you're going to see when you're out on your balcony and sitting there. And that's one of the things I look for. I love to hear the ocean roll in every morning and sit there and drink my coffee. So that's what an ocean front is going to be.
Yeah, because I know when I stayed at the coral level there, Star Cancun, it was right there. I mean, literally, you just open up the window, step out the balcony, and there it was, the whole Gulf of Mexico, basically at your front door. So those are the basic things. Now, Vacation Express does offer some non-adult inclusives, but I think it's important for people to understand what's really included in an all-inclusive, because this is where the value comes in. And in a lot of cases, you really don't even have to open up your wallet once you arrive at the resort. Now, tipping, is sometimes helpful. We're not going to deny that, but it's not necessary for your experience. So, what are some of the things that an all-inclusive resort is going to have versus the non-all-inclusive resort, so that people can understand the difference?
So with an all-inclusive resort, all of your food is included. All of your alcohol is included. There will be non-motorized sports that are included at most resorts. So that's really the big part. Room service, if it's available at the resort. Now we see with COVID, some things are, a little bit different right now, but that's okay. It doesn't take away from the experience. I've actually been to Cancun twice since June, and I'm headed down to the Dominican tomorrow. So very excited to see what they're doing in that destination. But with an EP plan, so European plan, non-all-inclusive resort, typically you're going to have your breakfast included. Your alcohol, your other meals, your some of your sports will be pay to play. And so you'll end up with that same bill at the end as you would going to, on a cruise or to a regular hotel. So that's why I try to steer toward those all-inclusives unless I'm really looking for something that is unique.
Right. If there's an experiential thing that can happen, that can really open your eyes, then you can maybe go to that non-all-inclusive, like the resort in St. Lucia we were mentioning earlier, because that's a really special resort, and it's not all-inclusive because they just never set themselves up to be that way.
And it's a boutique resort. So Ladera is unique in the fact that every room there has one open wall with their pool, so they can look over the pitons in St. Lucia. And there's a lot of little restaurants that are close to that resort. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 37 rooms at Ladera. So really, your breakfast is included. There's one restaurant on property. They want you to go out and experience the island.
And that's good because they have, obviously, in a boutique place like that, they'll have a concierge that'll help steer you in the right direction for all those things. So we know that Cancun is a very hot destination, and we know that the Dominican Republic is as well, mostly because of the fact that the restrictions for COVID aren't so great there upon arriving and departing. In fact, in Cancun, you didn't even know that they were taking your temperature, but they did. Which is fascinating stuff. And I must say that Cancun Airport was one of the most interesting and nicest airport terminals I've ever been to. They've really done a great job there. Dominican, I'm not so familiar with, although I definitely want to go because I know there's great golfing down there, and I'm a golfer. But one of the other places that could be recommended for travel in 2021 in the Caribbean basin, based on what we're hearing and seeing of all the COVID restrictions and all.
So, before we talk about the Caribbean, it would be remiss to not talk about the west coast of Mexico. None of Mexico requires that COVID test. So Puerto Vallarta really prices well right now. Cabo, we don't want to miss those destinations because we're so focused on Cancun and Riviera Maya area. So those are other options for your clients to experience something different. Cabo is a more desert feel. There's a lot of adventure out there. And of course, during October through February, you have the whales. And you have those in Puerto Vallarta as well, in Banderas Bay, with some diving and snorkeling. and some beautiful islands to explore. Now in Puerto Vallarta, the mountains meet the ocean. So it's a gorgeous area. Going into the Caribbean, now we do have islands that do require the COVID test. So Jamaica is one of them, but we're starting to see people travel there. With the abundance of testing centers here in the US, it's pretty easy to get that COVID test back in that time allotment. I've had people travel down to Aruba and to Antigua. So really starting to see more people venture out further into the Caribbean and start to see those markets really pump up. The Jamaican Tourist Board is trying to bring travel agents down there and really to get that tourist economy restarted.
They haven't invited me though, but that's the way it goes.
Me either.
There you have it. All right. I think that's an excellent overview of what's going on. Again, that Madeira Resort there in St. Lucia, it's buy 2 nights, get 2 nights free. And you have to book by November 24th. That's a heck of a deal because I was looking at the rack rates and the savings is 4 digits, basically. So, you're doing yourself a favor by doing that. There are nonstop flights from JFK to St. Lucia. So you got that covered if you're a New Yorker. And like I say, the areas in Mexico, I can vouch for Cancun and the Riviera Maya is being excellent and the protocols being met and exceeded. Obviously, none of these resorts want to have a black eye when it comes to this. So they're doing everything they can and more to make it as enjoyable as possible. A lot of the resorts are at 50% type capacity. So maybe not all the things you would expect to have would be available, but you're going to be there with a lot less people, and it's that makes for some certain advantages as well. So I think it's all great. I really want to thank you for being with us today, Keli. I appreciate it. Have a great trip in the Dominican. I'll be looking for all of your documentation of pictures and videos and everything else. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And I appreciate the overview of the all-inclusive resorts and what Vacation Express can do. And just a reminder, folks, that for 2021, $21 off of any $1,000 or more. For each $1,000, you get $21 off from me because 2021 is going to be better than 2020. And also, Celebrity Cruises does have their special where they give $100, I give $100 on onboard credit for any 7-day cruise in 2021. So, Keli, thank you so much. And everyone else out there watching, thank you so much. Next week, we have Augustin Minja, and we're going to talk safaris. So I'm sure that'll be a wonderful, wonderful time. So everyone take care and have a great week. Bye.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. Y'all have a great week. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Bye.